for naughty by nature.
That was just the little naughty by nature, very classical group of hip hop. So hopefully you just saw me enjoying a little bit. So anywho, it's almost the end of the year. You're getting busy with finals, and I want to share with you just another video devotional, probably the last one. No, I think I'll do one more. The second to last one of 2010. And I hope you guys are all doing well, and you come to this week's college gathering or Koga. But I want to share with you a little word from the Word, the Bible, and it was something that happened this morning. Every Wednesday morning, a bunch of the guys, we get up at 6:30 a.m. and we read through the Bible together, and it's open to all guys. And we read this from 1 Samuel 24. So we read, "He came to the sheep pens along the way. A cave was there, and Saul went in to relieve himself. David and his men were far back in the cave. The men said, 'This is the day the Lord spoke of when he said to you, I will give your enemy into your hands for you to deal with as you wish.' Then David crept up unnoticed and cut off a corner of Saul's robe. Afterward, David was conscience-stricken for having cut off a corner of his robe." So what's really interesting about this passage we're reading is King Saul has been trying to kill King David multiple times. And finally, after a series probably 4 or 5 times, Saul trying to kill David has him in his grasp. David finally can get him back, can become the king that God said he would be, and to kill King Saul. But the fascinating thing here is that when his men even tell him, "This is from God, you're supposed to kill him," David doesn't do that. It's kind of weird, right? If I was one of the soldiers, I'd be kind of frustrated at David. This seems so logical. It seems so practical. But David doesn't do that. And the question is really, why? I think a lot of times when we deal with discernment and issues of what we're supposed to do in our lives, what school we're supposed to go to, or what job we're supposed to take, or who we're supposed to be with, what guy or girl, we have a series of things that we do. Or we want to have a moral choice, whether we should do something or not. A lot of these decisions, we ask more the situation, we ask, what makes more sense? What is more practical? And we ask, what's right versus wrong? See, this is very interesting because life is not always clearly right and wrong, I think. There's a lot of gray area. And here, King David is confronted with a decision to make that God gives him to make. To either kill Saul and become the king, and he's been ordained to be the king, or do something else. See, the interesting thing here is that David, I think, doesn't ask himself, what should I do? What's most practical? Or what is right versus wrong? But rather, he asks, what is most pleasing to God? What is most pleasing to God? And I was thinking about this passage, the decisions I need to make and will make. Do I ever really ask, what will be most pleasing to God? Oftentimes we think about, what is the least I have to do to satisfy my requirements to God? What's the least I have to do so that I don't get in trouble, that I don't sin? How's the farthest I can go, for example, with sexuality, sexual sin? What's the farthest I can go before I sin? But rather, we don't ask the question, what is most pleasing to God? And the funny thing is that how does King David, how do we do that? How do we ask that question, and how do we respond in knowing what is most pleasing to God? And I think the answer lies in the fact that King David was a shepherd. He was out there at night, taking care of his sheep, and spending most of all his time with God, knowing God's word, knowing who God was. And because he spent time with God in the daily interactions of life, he was able to discern what was actually most pleasing to God. Even when it seemed the most practical thing to do was to kill King Saul, who again tried to kill him over and over again, but he had no ill will. He even felt guilty that he even cut a piece of Saul's robe. So the question I have for you as you go into finals, as you make decisions of how to spend your time, as you go home to your family and what to do with your family, in terms of your career, in terms of all these things, is to challenge you and to challenge myself of asking the question, what is most pleasing to God? And if you don't know, it's time to spend more time with God. Again, in the getaway we had, we talked about resting with God. Are you continuing that with slowing down, with taking Sabbath rest, with like your Divina, with Christian meditation, or just reading the Bible and being in church, being in fellowship? These are the things we need to feed us so that we can ask that question naturally. It's not going to be easy we have to for a while force ourselves to ask that question. Is it pleasing? Is this pleasing to God? What is pleasing to God? And so that's my challenge for you as you go into finals. I hope that's encouraging to you. As King David, most people, if you think about the sermon actually this past Sunday from Pastor Aaron, we all so often ask ourselves what is most practical, not as what is most pleasing to God. And so let's honor God together. I know that we'll need one another to do that. And so that's the video devotional for today. I just want to share some other announcements. Again, this Saturday is the college gathering. I hope you can make it. RSVP to me. I also hope that you can help out with serving at the Christmas concert. I sent an email about that earlier today. And again, the college gathering is for you to have opportunity to invite people to have fun, to have a good experience with church. A lot of people have been burned by it or wary of it. I think what we do at the college gathering is just really chill and really fun. Again, we're doing a Yankee swap, which is where you bring a gift and you go through a series of things and take someone else's gift and things like that. So it's a really fun thing. So again, we hope that you can make it. And I guess that's all the announcements. Again, I hope you can make the Christmas concert. Pray for the concert. We have a lot of seekers and non-Christians who come out for the first time. And again, I hope that you guys can be there too.